All right, welcome everybody to our session on how you can accelerate software delivery with Gemini and the power of cloud workstations. My name is Marcus Grappeggia. I'm a product manager within Google Cloud, focused on Gemini Code Assist. And I'm also joined by Divyansh Chaturvedi, who is another product manager within the Code Assist team, as well as Gorke, product man from Commerzbank, who will be talking about their experience using both Gemini Code Assist and Cloud Workstations on their development journey. All right, so rough agenda for today. I'll start by giving a high-level review of what is Gemini Code Assist, and then talk a bit about how Gen AI can help developers on their day-to-day development lifecycle. Then I'll pass over to Divyansh, who'll be giving a deep dive on how you can use code transformations, followed by a live demo of transformations using Gemini 1.5 with 1 million tokens. And you close up with a testimonial from Christian on the Commerzbank journey using Gemini Code Assist inside Cloud Workstation. So let's start. So what is Gemini Code Assist? At a very high level, Gemini Code Assist is your AI-powered developer collaborator. Gemini Code Assist is the evolution of Duet AI for developers. It is now powered by the latest Gemini models. So you can essentially expect to get Gemini models for code generation, for chat, for your most common use cases. And also, as usual, provides the enterprise capabilities our customers need, such as IP protections, governance, and security controls to ensure you're not only enabling your developers, but also meeting your compliance and security guardrails. And since our launch, we're excited to say that we now have our launch in December 2023. We're now excited to say we have 5,000 businesses which are actively using Gemini Code Assist on the day-to-day. Many of you likely are here in the audience. So I also wanted to take some time to thank you for all your trust, as well as for the great feedback you folks did across this journey, right? So, okay, so a core principle we follow within Google Cloud developer products is meeting developers where they are, right? So we all know developers have a myriad of tools they use, such as IDEs like VSCode or IntelliJ, CI/CD tools, pull request systems. The key idea here is we follow the same principle within Gemini Code Assist, and we do so by supporting the most popular IDEs and code editors our developers use, such as Visual Studio Code, IntelliJ, PyCharm, Cloud Workstations, Cloud Shell Editor, and many more, with Android Studio coming soon on our pipeline. Beyond that, one key approach which we take within Gemini Code Assist is to take a holistic AI assistance approach across the software development lifecycle. The key idea here is software delivery is not just about writing code in the code editor. There's a whole loop of steps which go from conception to development to testing, deployment, troubleshooting, and maintenance. And you can see here how Gemini Code Assist thinks about each of those steps and provides assistance on steps such as design. You can essentially imagine a chatbot, which allows you to brainstorm and prototype ideas for your new application yet to be conceived. You can think about build, like code generations helping as you're writing code. Testing, for example, helping getting assistance with creating unit tests to ensure a high test coverage, followed by deployment. Let's say you use Terraform or Kubernetes Resource Manager or G-Cloud. Gemini Code Assist is fine-tuning those languages to ensure it can also help with your infrastructure as code setup, in addition to troubleshooting with capabilities such as Gemini in Firebase or Gemini in Crashlytics. You can get assistance with things such as helping understand your crashes, ANRs, and troubleshooting issues you may have with your application, right? So the key idea here is each of those steps have an opportunity to create friction points within your development lifecycle. We see essentially here a larger opportunity to enable developers across each of those steps, right? Another point I want to mention here is Google was the very first Gemini Code Assist customer. Even before Gemini Code Assist was broadly available, Gemini was approved for production usage within Google with thousands of developers using for day-to-day development. This means essentially being able to get a much tighter developer feedback loop, with the engineers using that for the day-to-day development and providing feedback on both developer experience as well as providing data points to confirm that you're achieving the actual productivity and effectiveness gain you want to have with such a solution. And now the internal usage of Gemini Code Assist helped essentially improve Gemini, both in terms of being enterprise ready, as well as optimizing its developer experience. To dive deeper on that, Google has been spending, at this point, decades investigating ways to optimize developer productivity, developer satisfaction, and build happy and satisfied teams. You can see here some of the publications which Google published recently, such as our annual DORA report, our Software Engineering at Google book, and our SRE book. The key idea here is you can see Gemini Code Assist as a delivery mechanism to bring all the capabilities which were validated, tried, and tested within Google developers and A/B tested to ensure that we are providing more mature and more tailored product to our development teams. And moving on, I wanted to quickly talk about some new capabilities which were announced this week at Cloud Next, which are now available within Gemini Code Assist. First one is Gemini Pro. This is now generally available to all users. If you install and use Gemini Code Assist right now, you'll be getting Gemini Pro 1.0 for chat use cases, providing you assistance, bringing the power of Gemini directly to your code editor with the context of your local files. The second capability, which you can hear more about on our customization sessions tomorrow, is code customization. The key idea here is a hybrid approach to make Gemini Code Assist more contextual to your application. We do that in two ways. First one is expanded local context. The key idea here is beyond a single file, Gemini Code Assist now crawls the entirety of your local workspace and fetches files that are relevant to the task you have at hand. Let's say if you're writing a unit test, it will fetch the content of the file which has the unit test, even if the file is not open on a separate tab. So this is essentially about ensuring you're passing the right amount of information to Gemini to ensure it is providing more accurate and more comprehensive assistance. Beyond local customization, we also now have remote context, essentially currently in private preview, which allows you to go beyond your local workspace and index the entirety of your code bases, even if they're private. So let's say you have 50 different repositories with lots of private frameworks being defined. The key idea here is allowing Gemini to ground the assistance on this private code, allowing for both more accurate AI assistance, as well as to gradually nudge your developers towards the best practices by essentially incorporating the best practices which are hard-coded within your company code. That's two. And three is code transformations. That's the main focus of today's session. Code transformations, the key idea here is focusing on existing code which has already been written, allowing you to select a piece of code and use natural language instructions to modify the code in a given manner. For example, adding comments to code, or make code more readable, or troubleshoot code which may have bad latency, or fix code which has issues. That's the key idea of code transformations, which particularly become accentuated once you think about using Gemini 1.5 with full code-based awareness, allow you now to take into account not only a few files, but the entirety or a good fraction of your code repository. All right, let's now shift. Let's talk about how can these capabilities I mentioned before help developers in their day-to-day. So when you're building Gemini Code Assist, the first thing we did was talk to an extensive number of customers to understand what were the friction points holding them back from having their optimal software delivery velocity. And essentially, we saw a large number of issues, categories of challenges. Those were the four categories we saw more often being reported. The first one is slow developer onboarding. Let's say you're a developer joining a new team, or you're a developer that's unfamiliar with a code base, or a developer trying to call a new API for the first time. We see here a long time, in some cases days, spent trying to understand a specific piece of code to a point where you're comfortable reading, writing, and reviewing code for that code base. That's an area where we see AI being able to help accelerate that process. The second is excessive context switching. So we likely all been there. You have 50 tabs open, 10 on Stack Overflow, 5 on Google Search, 10 on Docs, and then having to juggle between all these different information sources. This all creates cognitive overhead, which takes you away from the focus on writing your core logic for a business case you want to solve. The key idea here is by bringing all that information to a single surface, essentially chatbot within your code IDE, or with as inline code completion, code generations, we can minimize all those sources of multitasking and context switching. The third point here is high maintenance costs and tech debt. An important point about delivery velocity is not just about writing code fast today, but having a code base where you can consistently maintain and evolve over time. One key thing you see here is code bases tend to grow in size and in complexity. And a common pattern you see is tech debt, essentially code which helped you move faster today, but over time it starts building a drag to productivity. We also see here AI by virtue of making things such as improving test coverage or helping better document code, being a lever which can help you minimize this issue. And finally, excessive repetitive tasks, such as writing unit tests, writing comments. Those are all simple tasks which you have to do, but given they are well structured, are a good fit to be automated or streamlined by AI assistance tools. Let me now talk about what a solution on this space means, right? So here I have a case study from Wayfair, one of our partners and customers who have been using Gemini Code Assist on the development teams. You can see here in numbers the kind of impact they experienced. The first one is faster developer onboarding, essentially environment setup in their case. So the developers can more quickly get a dev environment set up. A big thing here is by making test generation easier, you can have an increased test coverage. In their case, 48% more tests on their A/B experiment. And finally, not only developers writing code faster and being more productive, but more important, developers, 60% of the developers reported being able to focus on work which they consider to be more satisfying work. That's also a very interesting statistic which I wanted to share here. And moving on here. Second thing we did is we also did some controlled experiments. The key idea here was pick specific controlled tasks which are representative of those friction points before and run a controlled A/B experiment where one cohort gets no AI assistance and the other cohort gets AI assistance. What you're able to see here is consistently for those specific tasks, AI assistance helping improve and accelerate the time to completion by numbers around the order of 20 to 50% depending on the tasks. So we have here, for example, modifying existing code, writing brand new code, or getting help with understanding code or writing unit tests. Those being tasks where you can see Code Assist helping you on your day-to-day. And finally here, one thing I want to dive deeper here is enterprise readiness. So those are some of the measures we took within Gemini Code Assist to ensure Gemini is ready for the production usage. A common question you get from customers is, will Gemini Code Assist or the underlying models be trained on my code or on my responses? And the short answer is no. We do not train our models on our customer data. We do not even store the data used for the prompts. Gemini Code Assist is strictly a stateless service. The data comes in, we store in memory, of course, for serving, but we don't persist the data on any of our backends. The key idea here is to further increase data leakage protections, to not even persist customer data in our backends. The next thing here is IP protection. Our foundational models are trained on permissively licensed code, and even when a response Gemini provides is citing its sources, we provide what we call as recitations, which tells you where that, which parts of the code are matching our training data set, the source, the URL of that code, as well as the license it falls under. So let's say, for example, if you're getting code, which happens to recite Stack Overflow or GitHub, you'll be able to know where it came from to take a more informed decision about whether or not to incorporate the code and provide license attribution for the case where it's needed. You can also go as far as enabling blocking of all those citations to take a more aggressive posture in terms of IP protection. And that's it for the high-level overview. I'll now hand over to Divyansh to give you folks a deep dive on code transformations on Gemini Code Assist.
Thanks, Marcus. Good evening, everyone. My name is Divyansh Chaturvedi. I'm the product manager on the Gemini Code Assist team. Now, developers who have been using Gemini Code Assist have already seen great improvements in their productivity when it comes to doing repetitive, simple tasks, like creating a function or documenting a code. But what about some of the tasks that needs to be done, like it's complicated? For example, moving a legacy Java 8 to 21, or creating test cases for a backend service. So today, we are announcing a new feature to Gemini Code Assist called Code Transformations. It's publicly available in Cloud Workstations and Cloud Shell Editor. Now, with Code Transformations, you can provide or ask Gemini natural language prompts for analyzing, refactoring, or optimizing your code. Now, we have been asking developers what are some of the pain points. And one of the things that they have mentioned is that it's disruptive when they are in the developer flow, and now they have to ask Gemini questions. Well, we are also introducing in Code Transformation is the inline text box that helps you ask Gemini questions right in your code. Doesn't disrupt your development flow at all. Additionally, we are also introducing smart suggestions, smart commands, that's going to help you quickly get started with certain tasks like generating test cases or explain the code, and don't have to figure out what a natural language prompt would be. But we wanted to take this one step ahead. Today, we are also adding the support for full code base awareness that is backed by Gemini's 1.5 models that includes industry standards and industry-wide 1 million tokens. Now, 1 million token in perspective is 30,000 lines of code. That's a lot. Now, coupling this with code transformation, you can perform complex tasks, not just on a single file or a selected piece of code, but on the entirety of your repository. Available in preview on Cloud Workstations and Shell Editor, and we'll have the details on how you can enroll. But how about let's look at this in a live demo. So here I am in my favorite IDE, Visual Studio Code, that is running on Cloud Workstation. And today I'm going to assume a developer persona. As a developer, I've just inherited this repository. I don't know the contents of it. What are its functionalities? So why don't we ask Gemini? Now, as Gemini is doing its magic, let's go ahead and quickly glance over the repository. I can clearly see it's a Java 8 sample file. It has some of the features that were introduced at that point in time: Java operator, Nashorn's JavaScript engine, stream APIs, util.date, so on and so forth. Let's see what Gemini has returned back. And perfect, it's confirming my assumptions. The repository contains a mix of Java and JavaScript files, demonstrating various features of Java 8 and Nashorn's JavaScript engine. But it didn't stop there. It has also gone ahead and given me the breakdown of each and every file and its functionalities. Isn't this awesome? Also, it's given me a breakdown of JavaScript files too. And what we did here is we sent the whole code base down to Gemini. It looked at the whole code and sent me this analysis. But did I mention it's Java 8? Isn't it really old? What about we convert some of the files here from Java 8 to 21? Let's look at one of the folders, Lambda. It has 3 files: Lambda1, threading.java, interface. In Lambda1, I can clearly see that it's using some of the deprecated APIs. Util.date. Similarly, in threading, I can see that it's using suspend and stop, deprecated methods. What if I tell Gemini to convert all the files in this Lambda folder from Java 8 to 21? And also, I'm going to tell Gemini to provide me only the refactored code. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the interface 1.java doesn't need any refactoring. It's adhering to Java 21 standards. Let's give it a few more seconds. And there you go. Gemini has given me the refactored code for Lambda 1, threading.java, and it's also given me the explanation at the bottom that basically says what key changes it performed on those two files. It replaced date with local date. Amazing, right? And threading.java, it basically replaced the synchronized block with reentrant lock. It also replaced the stop and the suspend. But do I trust the refactored code that Gemini has provided? Does it alter my functionality of the code? Let's put that to test as well. So here I have lambda1.java file. I'm going to quickly run this file. And what this file does is lists down the presenters in the natural order, cloud next date, and Google phones and its price points. Let's go ahead and apply the refactored code that Gemini had provided me. And I'm going to go ahead and run this file again. And there you go. The functionality has remained the same. It has gone ahead and updated the deprecated class that I was using with local date, and I can do this same process for threading.java as well. Imagine the amount of time that Gemini is saving and improving my productivity. I can do this for all the folders in the repository. In fact, I can do this for the whole repository itself. Isn't that great? Now let's do one thing. Let's switch to a different kind of an application, a web-based application built on Python. We're going to still assume a developer persona, and I'm again inheriting this repository. Now I can clearly see that there is no documentation. The README file is missing. So how about we actually go ahead and ask Gemini to generate a detailed readme.md file that contains information on each file and, let's say, a couple of ways of deploying this application. Deploying the application locally. Now, as Gemini is doing its magic, let's go ahead and glance at the repository. So I can see it has a backend service, a front-end service. Front-end has some static files, HTML, so on and so forth. Backend has a back.py that has basically services. Let's see what Gemini has returned back. And awesome. Gemini has given me the file breakdown, what the functionality of each of these files are, how to run the application locally, a step-by-step approach, and also it's recommending me how to leverage Cloud Data Store, just in case if I want to do that. I like this README file. I'm just going to go ahead, copy the contents of this, and dump it into a README file. Now, of course, not perfect, but I can clearly see that Gemini has, not here. Let's do it here. And I can copy the content here. Of course, not perfect, but we can iterate on this and add more content. But let's dive deeper into this documentation use case. When I had opened the back.py, I saw that it's missing API docs. It's one of the ways of understanding what are the services in a particular Python web application. How about I ask Gemini to create API docs for all the function in this file? And in order to do so, I'm going to use an inline text box. How do I trigger that? Command-I on Mac, Control-I on Windows. It opens up a text box right in my development flow. I'm going to say to Gemini, add API docs for all the functions in the file. Let's give it a couple of seconds. With inline text box, you also get the capability of a diff view. You can quickly understand what your original code was against the refactored suggested code from Gemini. And I like what I'm seeing here. It identified get messages and add messages as a function. It also identified that add message requires expex, but not in get message. So I like this. I'm going to go ahead and approve these changes. And there you go. It's that simple. Now let's go ahead and take a tester's persona. Let's be a tester for a day. For a tester, one of the important tasks is to create a test plan. In order to do so, you've got to understand what the web application does, what are its functionalities, the backend, the front-end services. What about I ask Gemini to actually create a test plan for me? Create a test case plan for the web application in the repository. And here again, we are using the full code base awareness that is supported here with Gemini Code Assist. Let's give it a couple of seconds, and there you go. We have a test case plan created for the front-end service and the back-end service. But it didn't stop there. It's also given me test cases for front-end and specifically how to display the duration on the web page. For the back-end, it looked at those two functions, get message and add message, and given me test case scenarios for those two. Additionally, it's also given me recommendations on what tools and frameworks to use, PyTest. Also, it identified that I'm using MongoDB in the backend for database, and therefore it's recommending me MongoMock as the mocking framework to mock the DB operations. Isn't that amazing? But the job is not yet done. There's one more step left for a tester, is to create a test case scenarios. So let's go ahead and ask Gemini to give me a set of test cases for back.py using the recommendation, which is PyTest framework. Let's give it a couple of seconds. And voila, we have a test case file created for our backend service. In fact, it's gone ahead and testing a couple of scenarios, empty messages, how to get a message, adding a message, and just in case an invalid data is there. With this, I can run the commands which are provided in the response as well. So it's given me the step-by-step approach to running these test cases. And isn't this fantastic? Like, I'm already sold. I don't know about you all. With code transformations and full code base awareness, Gemini can perform these complex tasks, not just on a single file or a selected piece of code, but also on the entirety of the repository. I'm going to hand it over to Christian, who's going to basically talk about how Gemini Code Assist helped Commerzbank.
Thanks a lot, Div. This was a really impressive demonstration. So now we're going to jump back to the slides. And before we're going back to the topic of cloud workstations and Gemini, I first want to introduce Commerzbank to you. So I'm Christian Gorke. I'm Vice President and Head of Cyber Center of Excellence at Commerzbank. And Commerzbank itself is a bank from Germany, and Commerzbank is the leading bank for the German Mittelstand and is a strong partner for almost 11 million private and small business customers. Commerzbank is also has a client-centric portfolio of financial services in two segments. This is private and small business customers as well as corporate clients. What you can see in the middle is our focused business model. It's based on growth, excellence, and responsibility. And I think the most interesting point of this list is the one exactly in the middle of this slide, shaping the digital and sustainable transformation. And I guess we're working on the digital one for today. Okay, next, I'm also part of BDA, the Big Data and Advanced Analytics team of Commerzbank. And we are roughly 500 colleagues, and we have more or less a huge part of the data of the bank running our infrastructure. And we have around 500 colleagues, and we love being pioneers, meaning we started back in 2019 working together with Google Cloud. And what I find quite remarkable when you're using Google Cloud services as of today, we started back in 2019 working together with Google, and quite once per month, or maybe a little bit often even, we commit code to Google and it gets accepted, and then our code ends up in the code base of Google Cloud. So it might be that when you use Google Cloud code, then there might be a contribution from Commerzbank in there. Then within BDA, my team, Cyber Center of Excellence, we are fostering a secure, scalable, and standardized public cloud and create the infrastructure and framework to become a cloud-first business. This means we are responsible in the unit for data protection, information security, and cloud. This means mainly public cloud. And for public cloud, we are bringing the business case of the bank into, for example, Google Cloud. And bringing a use case into the cloud means starts from engineering, goes over architecture. But the very interesting part is that Google Cloud provides already a quite secure foundation for the financial industry, which is quite heavily regulated in Germany, Europe, and on a global level. And we built something what we call the Cloud Enterprise Suite, which brings the cloud security to a next level, to a trustworthy level, we call it, in order to make it easy for our financial applications to directly migrate to the cloud and run on top of Google Cloud. And I will show you some examples how we are using the Cloud Enterprise Suite in combination with Cloud Workstations and Code Assist. So something what we use heavily are Cloud Workstations. And Cloud Workstations are great, but the way Markus is delivering Cloud Workstations usually doesn't fit our needs. So what we are doing, we are going to customize the Cloud Workstations. So luckily there are a lot of knobs we can change and switch. So Cloud Workstations with custom images provide us exactly the amount of detail we need in order to fulfill our cases, what we do with Cloud Workstations. But what are we doing exactly with Cloud Workstations? So in the end, I want to show you 3 cases. The first one, we call it Cloud Developer Workstations. These are the Cloud Workstations we are using for developers, for engineers. So they're using Visual Studio Code, they're using IntelliJ to code in Terraform, Python, Java, or JavaScript. And this is then directly embedded in our CI pipeline. Next, we have the Cloud Operator Workstation. The Cloud Operator Workstation is tailored towards staging. So staging means a developer has now created an application in development environment, and we want to stage it into test and into production. And this usually is gated by an operator. And the operator is using a Cloud Workstation, and in our case with Visual Studio Code or OSS code, and runs Terraform in order to stage the application. And by the way, in this case, in order to enable this, we also need to make sure that the Cloud Workstation runs without connectivity to the internet. So it runs completely on our premises and how we define Cloud Workstation scope. Last but not least, the Cloud Analytics Workstation. This is for the data scientists who are working in a lab environment and use a lot of data, connect the GPUs to the Cloud Workstation to gain the value. Now, you see the right-hand column is empty, and the right-hand column is for a very important thing, which is also very important for the financial industry. This is for security. And one reason why we went with Cloud Workstations is because it supports all our checkboxes: customer managed encryption key, asset inventory, service level agreements, VPC service controls, access approval, access transparency, geolocation, so we can host it in Europe, we can secure it with our Commerzbank keys, and this is what we, in the end, need. So to sum up, Cloud Workstations, we are using it quite heavily for integration into the CI/CD pipeline, customization to address these 3 different needs, security to be regulatory compliant, and of course, the feature itself, having a workstation on the cloud. And I want to give you a small glimpse on how we are embedding Cloud Workstations in our CI/CD pipeline. So you see on the right-hand side our cloud-native CI/CD pipeline. So it starts with Git. Git is hosted under Commerzbank responsibility, but everything from Git is directly embedded in the Cloud Workstations. And then Cloud Workstations is connected to assured open source software from Google or to a custom repository. And on the other hand, we have also access to images in the artifact registry, what you see on the bottom, to pull these images into Cloud Workstations to run them, for example, or to change them. And everything from the Cloud Workstations is get then sent to to cloud build, to build the application, or to orchestrate, for example, to do code compliance and testing with, for example, SonarQube. And if everything is successful, it gets pushed to artifact registry. This is the I part. And then from the artifact registry, it gets taken into the CD part, where the operator is already waiting with his cloud workstation. Now next, I want to show you a different use case, how we leveraged both the cloud workstation and our CI/CD pipeline in order to bring something to our teams, which we find quite remarkable. So we call it 1D, 1D, because our goal was we have an employee, and the employee gets on board to Commerzbank, gets on board to our teams. So legal check is done. But now how much time should pass until this developer can start working? And our goal was to be below 24 hours. And actually, this was possible to achieve with the cloud workstations. So we need 1 day to onboard a developer, to get him fully on track, to get him onto the cloud workstation. He gets all the permissions he needs. And usually it doesn't need 24 hours, it needs just some minutes, yeah. But our goal was to be within 1 day. And now we have the developer there, being happy, he can work on his first day. So what is he going to do on day 2? Well, on day 2, he's thinking about production. So he has written his code in development, and now the question is, how does he get his code from development to production? And the answer is simple. You have seen it. You use the cloud-native CI/CD pipeline. Again, you have the operators using the cloud workstation. And then we are staging the software from dev into production with the necessary quality gates in between. And so this allows us, the benefit is, of course, security. So imagine you have a banking application and something goes wrong. You need to patch it. You need to be very reactive. You cannot wait until some machines have booted up and you have set up all the permissions, you have installed all the right libraries, all the dependencies. There's no time for that. You need to press a button and start working. And so this is one of them. The other one is time to market. Of course, we want to react to the needs of the customers as quickly as possible. And in the end, of course, we also want to make our developers happy. Yeah, because our developers should not worry about which packages they need to set up. Of course, they should have, and all of them have wishes, which packages they need, but in the end, they should not set it up. So the combination of technology, people, and processes make it possible to have this 1D, 1D based on cloud workstations and our cloud-native CI/CD pipeline. I have put a quote on this slide, which is a quite recent quote from February this year, from a senior development engineer at Commerzbank, and he was quite hesitant switching to cloud workstations. And the moment he was using it, he came to my desk and said, hey, cloud workstations is by far the most effective tool in the last 10 years when it comes to increasing development effectiveness. And he said developing became fun again. So this was quite interesting. So, and what was also interesting, we did a customer satisfaction survey on the cloud workstations to make sure that what we bring to the bank and bring to the developers actually makes sense and makes increase the effectiveness. And while we were thinking about how to structure the customer satisfaction score, already developers started adopting the cloud workstation. So they were much faster adopting the new technology that we could validate the effectiveness and the scalability of the platform. And so it only took like 3 months until 95% of the developers switched to cloud workstations, without us forcing them to do it. So this was quite a positive experience. Now, changing from cloud workstations to AI. AI-assisted development, something we've heard a lot in the last 30 minutes and in the last 2 days, of course. And we in Commerzbank see that AI has a high potential in many different areas, in the business, in the development, in risk, much more. However, it is framed by regulatory requirements. As that, Commerzbank, coming from Germany, being a part of the European Union, you probably have heard of the European Union AI, Artificial Intelligence Act, which regulates or tries to regulate and address the risks of artificial intelligence. So when we think about using AI, there's governance in place, there's security in place, trustworthiness of AI is a huge question. And the point is why we have solved or At least we have guidelines for traditional technology, like let's say databases or source code. Now AI brings new flavor to these terms, to this taxonomy. So it's not trivial to solve these issues or to solve these points, but I think we are on a good way. And together with the regulators and together with our teams internally, I think we cannot do everything as of today, but we can start. And one thing with respect of development is we can start with technology and business-driven exploration to innovate and create value. So this means we want to rapidly ideate. I want to have a website ready in 2 minutes. I need a developer to onboard in 1 day, but I want to have a website in 2 minutes. Should be possible. I want to drive innovation. I want to use modern cloud technologies. I want that our developers use cloud serverless services in order to get the application running as quickly as possible. So let me give you an example. With code transformations, I want to show you how to get my idea to code base in minutes. So this should not take more than 2 minutes. So the idea is to utilize cloud workstations and Gemini Code Assist. As you have seen right now live in the demo, I want to generate a structure for an application, the back end, the front end. I want to test it with unit tests. And even more, I want to containerize it, again, put it into a serverless environment, and then take it from there to manufacturing. And 2 things I haven't mentioned yet, but which are very important for us. What you can see on the slide is what we call the cloud service security assessment. So we assess every cloud service, making sure that we can indeed use it. And there are 2 elements which are new for Gemini or for, in general, AI. One is IP identification, so making sure there's a legal safety when using the results from the AI. And the second is data governance. This is what Markus already mentioned. So we need to be sure when we input our Commerzbank values into the prompt of the AI, then it's only used to process a response, but not to train further models. So let's get started. First thing I'm doing, I'm telling Gemini, I want to build a web application. I'm going to upload a CSV file. And please, front end should be implemented with React, back end with Flask, and please give me the folder structure. A few seconds later, I get the structure you see here on the screen. The front end in React, back end in Flask, and Google Cloud Storage, because the CSV I'm going to upload needs to rest somewhere. Next, given the structure, I now need the code of the Flask backend. Let's start with the backend. I need a landing page. I need to upload the CSV file. I need to fetch all my uploaded files. Again, after a few seconds, I get the output, the app.py, what you see on the screen with the different landing pages. And I get even the HTML pages. But what I was missing here, that's why I went for the code transformation, is I want to have a real validation that the file which is uploaded is indeed a CSV file. I do not want to check if there's 1 comma in there. I want to see that the whole file indeed is a valid file. So I asked Gemini Code Assist to do it for me. And you see the second bubble on the right-hand side where Gemini is actually embedding a CSV library to check for that. Great. Let's do the next one, front end setup. So I want, again, to have my front end React. And I want to display errors and alerts because somebody might try to upload images, for example. I want to see the progress of my upload. So we usually have huge CSV files in the financial industry, and huge means can be multiple hundreds of megabytes or even into the gigabytes. And of course, I want to see what I have uploaded in the end, so I want to display the uploaded files. And again, after a few seconds, I get the app.js for the React front end with the HTML code. At the bottom, I even get a CSS file, so I can style my output. And I get the index file then, which in the end is called when I visit the page. Now next, as we have also seen live right now, the unit testing, I also want to test my site. So what I'm asking Gemini Code Assist is given the code above, write unit tests for the back end of the application. So, and Gemini gives me 2 outputs. First, it lists the tests, what it thinks makes sense for my application. So you see here 4 examples, for example, a valid CSV file, and the file route is accessible, and then it hands me also the Python code for it. And what I can do, I can just click on take the code into my cloud workstation, click on run, and check if the code that was created by Code Assist is indeed working. And yes, it worked. And now I'm asking, hey, can you please put it into a Docker file? And I want to run it in serverless, of course, because I don't want to maintain a VM. Put it into Cloud Run and artifact registry. And it spits me out exactly the code, the two gcloud commands, gcloud run deploy with a container in the artifact registry. And now, after roughly 2 minutes, I'm done. You see here the beautiful interface with the German word. So it's indeed a screenshot of the CSV file upload. So you can select your file there and click on upload after 2 minutes. But I didn't want to stop here. You see on the top 7 of 7 steps, I have a last step I want to show you. So if you invest 1 more minute, you can also make it nice. So you can have the Commerzbank logo at top. You can log in. You can select your upload type, single file, multiple files. You can also do that with our internal style guides or with the colors and so on, together with Code Assist. Great. Last topic I have is the code transformation on the documentation. So now we have the use case ready, but we have one problem. We don't have one use case, we have multiple use cases with many different developers, and every developer documents in a different way. So what we want to do, we want to streamline the documentation. And I think this is where the AI can help us a lot. And so right now you have a mixed quality, mixed structure, and imagine again a new employee is joining. The question is, how can he or she consume the documentation easiest? Well, of course, if the documentation is universally structured, if it has the same depth, if it is assigned to the right audience, like for business people or for developers or for just code explanation. And again, the benefit of Gemini Code Assist here is the awareness of the full workspace because of the 1 million plus tokens. So it can indeed document not only the code, but the whole workspace. And of course, the challenge then remains that every developer, of course, uses the same prompt. So this is one a challenge which has not yet been solved by AI, but maybe it's something for next. So to recap, we want to have modern DevOps, which consists of cloud workstations, Gemini Code Assist, and in cloud workstations, we have the flexible customization and the 3 use cases I showed you. Compliance security, without the security, we cannot go anywhere. We need to integrate it into our processes. We want to have a familiar usage so that developers should feel familiar and have fun using it. We need managed scalability, so we don't do anything. Marcos is doing this behind the scenes. And of course, boost efficiency in the amount of code that we can produce or faster time to market. Same for Gemini Code Assist, frictionless prototyping, as you have seen, test generation, unified documentation, the easy integration, and we see, again, an immense potential going forward. I mean, the technology is quite young, but we see already a lot of use cases where to apply it, and I think from here it only gets a lot better, a lot quick, very, very quick. And so, and if you want to have the same in your organization, yeah, I recommend to test what you have seen today and talk to your managers, talk to your partners, make sure you stick within the regulatory requirements. Talk to your people, ask your developers what they want. Usually they want great things, and if you enable your developers, they will enable you. So this is part from Commerzbank for Cloud Workstations and Code Assist. Handing back over to Dev.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Christian. So I know we are over time, but so one last slide that we have is for you to sign up for all the features that you saw today, the code transformation, full code base awareness, by going and registering yourself in the link or scanning the QR code. We'll be there outside to take any questions if you have, but thank you all for joining. Thanks.